All right, guys, we can get rocking. I think, coming in today, I was thinking if you'd asked me prior to the game to give me two takeaways, the two keys to winning, I'd have said we've got to get the ball back for the offense and create a few takeaways and winning on third down. And if you ask me now, give me the two things why we didn't win the game, I'd say we didn't get the takeaways and we didn't win third down. We knocked two of the takeaways out on some fumbles, but we didn't recover them. And I thought that's the stuff that you need to switch a momentum, to change a drive, to go. And so I thought, not winning on third down, that's who we are. And so not to deliver on those, that's the tough part. So that's what I thought, and ready to get rocking with you guys.
Dan, David Moore, Dallas Morning News. How do you reconcile when you assess the defensive performance the second half, where the fourth quarter, the three and outs, you gave the team a chance to win it, come back, but then you had the third quarter where you had the lead and you kind of let it get away from you to put you in that position.
Yeah.
So how do you assess and reconcile that?
That's why I don't sleep. I would say, one, I'm proud of at the end to say, hey, when it's time to fight, we had to go 10 toes down and stand up, and fight for it. And so knowing that we were capable of doing that, of three, times to get stops, to give the ball back, I thought that was huge. I'll go into some of the longer drives. I really thought not winning the third and fourth downs together was a big part of that. I think you probably even saw that on the opening drive of the game. There was a 4th and 1 we didn't get, and it went into maybe a 2nd and might have been over 20, and a 3rd and 15 to a 4th and 3. So I thought those ones, David, those were the ones that extended the drives. And so that's part of where they're strong, and it's part of where we're strong. And so I was disappointed that we didn't quite nail that part of who we are and how we play. So that was kind of one of the strengths of them going in too. I think they were right about 50%, and that's what they ended with the game. So that's to me, I thought the game within the game. We just didn't nail that like we're capable of on the third down. So we got to change the math on that next time we play these guys, that's for sure.
And kind of just an extension there, we're talking about the second half, but this is the 6th consecutive game that you've given up points on the opening possession. Usually you bounce back and kind of go from that.
Yeah.
What have you seen in that trend development?
Yeah, and I really honestly felt strong. We got them into a long yardage one, and so to get the two extended plays, that was disappointing for us. So we got work to do. I certainly was aware of that, going in, that they were strong right off the bat. But to give up a third down, a couple of them in that opening drive, that's kind of what I was referring to about, that being disappointment, because that's really one of our strong points. So that stung, to make sure that, hey, let's make sure that strong part stays strong for us.
Sonny's The Athletic. Dan, we've asked you about some guys that have stood out, Micah, Duran, and those guys, but I'm curious, DeMarcus Lawrence, how have you seen his season, and does it seem like with all the talent that you guys have, maybe he, at least externally, I guess, flies under the radar sometimes and stuff? Yeah,
not internally, for sure. He's such a strong competitor and player, and usually when there's a big play to be made, it's a forced fumble, it's a big hit to go. And I have been very impressed by DeMarcus this year. He's been left end, right end, inside, outside, made an impact in a number of those spots. So I thought maybe externally it's quietly, but internally he's loud and he makes a lot of plays. And so he's been, somebody that's been very impactful. When you kind of looking at when you're grading a player throughout the season, you don't want to see the peaks and valleys. And one thing that's been consistently good week after week with DeMarcus, and that's the hardest part, right, isn't it? Doing it over time and over again. And so for him to continue to do that, I've definitely been impressed by that.
Especially in the pass rush, I guess, the way that he kind of does allow for other players to open up. How have you seen his impact? That doesn't necessarily show up on the stat sheet.
Yeah, it may not, and there's times when it does, and certain slides going to one way and he gets there, but when there's a play to be made, he's usually right in the spot. It might be a big third down stop, it might be him taking a shot to get the ball out, but he is by far one of our best competitors, and it just always seems to jump out at me.
Good. Michael Galkin, Dallas Morning News. The three and outs in the fourth quarter, for you, what did you see in terms of why the ascension of the defense to kind of rise and get those stops after some explosives and so forth earlier on?
That's a good one. I thought just having the ability to the guys, we played some man-to-man, we guarded them tightly. I thought in the run game, I was pleased with the fits that the guys had, and I thought going in that was going to be, one of the keys for us to go. But I thought, in those times when they had the lead, trying to extend it with some runs, for us to create some longer yardage on the second down and third downs, I thought that was really important, Mike, as it got to the end where some of those third downs weren't of the, 1 or 2 or 3 variety where there was a run pass option on them.
Dave Loffler, Cowboys Radio. Dan, it's not like the game started and you figured out this A.J. Brown's pretty good, but they had four completions on the first drive to him, and after that, you relatively quiet. I think you had 2 more catches, but anything that you guys changed up in handling him, or did you just...
Going in, we certainly know he had been off to just a historic start. Not a start, I guess, when you're talking about maybe the last, 6 or so of his games. And there were so many of them that had been big plays down the field. And so going in, we thought, man, we cannot allow, explosive plays to get on top of us. And so sometimes the byproduct of that is some underneath throws that may have some catches, because that's one of the parts, as you guys know from just studying it, on their double moves at tight end or wide receiver. They had really played strongly and created a number of big plays. So we just wanted to make sure that wasn't going to happen on our watch down the field. That may have been, partly contributed to that. And then after that, I thought the guys just, locked in and played it strongly. But he's an excellent player, no doubt about it. And he's off to, a hell of a year. Not off to, not middle of the year, you're not off to a start, but I just thought, yeah, we've been playing football around here for a while, so, when you do something that hadn't been done before, it's a pretty big deal.
Skyler Dixon with the AP. You guys are going to go 2 for 2 with the New York team coming in here, and with another quarterback after the starter has a long-term injury. How much in the game before, how much of your messaging has to be, don't care who's playing quarterback, we've got a job to do?
I haven't got all the way into them yet, but what I do know, Brian's an excellent coach, and their system will be, the thing that we have to look at, because there probably won't be a lot of tape, on who may, get the majority of the snaps. But what I do know is that, from a system standpoint of who they do, or how they are, and how they play, and one thing that I've always been impressed by them and the people they've added is the amount of team speed that they have, both at receiver and at running back. Those are the things that jump out to me. But as far as the all the way into the game plan, I've only been through a few games so far. And I would imagine, system-wise, that's where you start, as opposed to just the focus on just one player.
Your defense has not allowed yet a 100-yard rusher or a 100-yard receiver yet this season.
Way to bring the mood back. All right, good job.
Is that something internally that you guys have acknowledged?
No, first time I've heard it. So I would say we just have a really good competitive group of guys that want to fight and want to be down for the challenge. And this week, certainly what we saw, from their receiving core, and quite honestly, their tight end as well has, real ability to make the big plays down the field. And every time you're studying a team, you really start with the explosive plays and say, how are they creating them? Is it a certain player? Is it a certain scheme that you have to be ready for? Pass game, run game. And so when you start there, you can kind of outline to say who are the critical guys and how do you play. And then from there, you can start working back on your game plan. And so we're always aware of where the people are and how they happen for the explosive plays and the big plays. And you want to make sure that's at the top of the pile. And that's one of the things that the defense, has been strong at, is saying, hey, let's make sure, we're not going to allow an explosive play to hit us and make a big one on us.
Nick Harris, DallasCowboys.com. On the Devontae Smith touchdown, is there any learning opportunity there for Deron Bland, or is that just a situation of great coverage but better throwing guys?
Yeah, I thought those are the ones, I think, when you give up a score that you have to, you don't ever like to do it, but you say if they're going to make an excellent throw and you tip your hat to them, that was one of those double moves that we were referring to. And I thought if they have to make that kind of throw to get, a big score, then you have to, live and fight through that. Sometimes when you're playing a single high, that's what happens. The shots go down the field. What I can tell you is that, all the trust in the world on our outside guys. They're strong, they're capable, they're ready to do all their stuff. So I know Deron would be ready to line back up and fight plenty more times. We played a lot of more single high even after that play. So it wasn't where we got away from one specific thing. But on that one, I'll definitely give the credit. Is there always something, a tweak or a technique that you'd like to do better, of course, but, certainly give the credit to those two players on that one.
And then in your time here, how different is the confidence today versus other Mondays after a loss, especially given how your defensive unit finished the game with 3 straight 3-and-outs and knowing that you'll see that opponent here in 5 weeks?
Yeah, I wouldn't say confidence is the word I was probably looking for, because we expected to go in and play well and win. And so when you don't, I don't think that comes from, confidence. I think we are a confident group, and we're ready to get it on and play however we got to play. So I don't know if that's the right word I'd be looking for today. Yeah, morale might be, you're closer, you're getting warmer, but I'm saying morale's not good, So, but I would say when you miss a chance, you're upset. And like I said earlier, on the third downs, we got to change the math on those for us to play like we're capable of playing and, help our team win. And that's where the focus is. But once we get through today and we'll have to turn the page quickly, to get there. We'll get a fight at these guys again in weeks from now. And when that time comes, it'll be, able to bring up some of these. But when you're in the fight and you don't get it done, you're just generally not happy.
Aisha Morrison, Cowboys.com. Coach, this defense has seen a lot of offenses that do a lot of crossers and things like that because you folks do play more man than a lot of other teams. Can you explain why that is so hard to guard as a defense and why it has been a successful play across the league? I mean, I feel like this year's been used heavily.
Yep. I think the motion is up overall. I don't know, you might know the numbers better than me, but the different types of motion. Sometimes when a receiver goes across the ball to change strength, in the past, sometimes a person would run with that player to go. Well, sometimes on ones where you're jetting across, you don't necessarily travel and you go and you bump. So I think whether you're man or you're zone, people are having to learn to play that more. Usually you start with, how do people get into bunches and stacks to pick guys in man-to-man. Then the next step off of that is crossers, because for that same reason, a guy could get picked or bumped into. So having the ability to play some zone where you have vision and play man-to-man is the best. Now, picking and choosing when to do that goes, all into it together, and how mobile is the quarterback and all the other factors. So sometimes there's a lot of factors that go into it, but at the end, it's a great question, and you do have to have a balance of both, because I think if anybody was just all run, you'd be able to stop that, or all throwing that way. And same thing on the motions. If you played all man-to-man or all zone, I think they'd be more effective. But the combination of both, I think that's where the sweet spot is, and you better be able to do that, or a team will make you look bad.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. Bell and Clark, how would you assess them the last couple of weeks, especially after Layton's been gone?
Yeah, and those are big shoes to fill, with Layton, not just from the ball player, but also from the person orchestrating a lot of the stuff that goes inside. It's hard to measure that at times, but man, have I been impressed. I thought I always feel Damone's speed, and I do with Bell as well, but their ability to cover, their ability to stay connected, and there'll be some times, especially as they're going through it, there'll be mistakes, and that's a little bit of on-the-job training, especially for Marquise as he's fully transitioned, to linebacker. But what I can say is they don't get beat on the same things twice a lot, and I think there was just a fantastic play, speaking of the fourth quarter, that Swift has got excellent speed. He's ready to bounce outside on a play, and Marquise just was able to get outside and track and make the tackle. And I think it's one of the underrated parts of his game is his tackling ability. I sense it has, with these long arms of 33 and 34 and the speed to get there, that he doesn't miss a lot when he's into that range. And so those are the things that always impressed me about him. But man, I got a lot of belief in him, and I think it's going to continue to climb. But I thought Damone had another excellent game. He's really just kind of starting to stack these together, and it's really cool to see. He's very much a perfectionist, so he's hard on himself, and so I'm constantly trying to reinforce, look at all the good things that are taking place, and I just think he's going to, both these guys, their arrow's going way up, and we need him to be.
To the quarterback, real quick.
Sure.
Tommy DeVito, Jersey guy, might start. How much do you go back to what he did at Syracuse, Illinois, in comparison to what the system is in New York?
Yeah, I think, like the preseason plays and the plays that he had, that's where you start to make a cut up to say, who is he first? And, what are his strengths? Because one thing I know about Brian and their staff is they'll play to a player's strengths. And so when you saw, their system, all three of these guys are really athletic and mobile. And I'm not sure if I'll get the total number correct, but I just counted up all the quarterback runs, not like just zone read, but I'm talking about like a scramble or a run. I think it was at 70 carries. It might have been 40 for Daniel and maybe another 22 for Tyrod and 8 for DeVito. So it makes me think you're going into it. All of these guys have the athleticism to get out and create on the move, and keepers that can get a player outside the pocket. And so I think that's part of what Daniel and Tyrod's strengths are, of throwing on the run. And I wouldn't be surprised, the more that I dig into it, that would be DeVito's strengths as well, of a guy being able to create and get outside the pocket. Sometimes when you're developing, quarterbacks for a system, you want to make it, similar, where guys have similar traits. Some teams go just the opposite, where they have one who's really mobile and another that's, not, and it's totally different offenses. In this case, I have a sense that all of them are very athletic and able to create, some run-pass options on their own.
Dan, as a head coach, you coached against Dak Prescott twice earlier in his career. Then you came here when he was coming back from his ankle injury. I'm curious, the mobility he had when you coached against him, and then to see him kind of grow back from his injury into the way he's playing right now, coach against him in training camp and all that stuff. Just what have you seen from him and in your time here?
Well, I think the first thing that probably jumps out when you say that to me is he is an elite competitor, like elite. And there's guys in our league who are excellent competitors, and quite honestly, every person who's playing in this league is. But then, just like most things, he's the special forces of competitors. He's at the top of the top. And when you're, for a coach for another team, you may not always know that. Sometimes a player can express themselves in ways that you see that. And I can remember receivers like Anquan Bolden or Steve Smith, just the competitive drive that they had, or you see a defensive player had it. And at that position, sometimes you don't get to see you. We track him on the accuracy of the throw or those things. But to see him stand in, take a shot, knowing he's going to get a hit and deliver with accuracy, and quite honestly, a lot of us want to win for him because of the leader that he is and the man that he is and the teammate that he is. So not only is he one of the best competitors, like he's somebody you want to fight for. And that's a pretty rare quality to have. And but I'd say he's got the whole package, that it goes with it. And so that's what makes him so unique and so special. Aside from the talent, he's got all the other things that you look for in a guy.
This will probably be the last one from Jacob.
Probably, or is?
Let's see. What it is.
Two-part question, please. Right.
The defense gave up less than 300 total yards of offense, but still gave up 28 points, including 3 for 3 in the red zone for Philadelphia. How do you reconcile that as a coordinator when you look at the film?
Yeah, it's scoring to me. Like total and all that, that's great, but like the name of the game is scoring defense. And so that's where we have to be at our best. And so, like I said, they threw one that hit to Bland that we can take our shots on that. The ones that we can't are ones that we get, drives down the field that got extended from the third and the fourth down. So that's the part when they get down, close to the gate, we've got to make sure they cannot get in, and we've got to get field goals or, knock a ball out. And so when we do that, we usually like the results. And so yesterday, not getting any of the takeaways, because that's also a drive that ends right there. Like sometimes you think a punt, or it goes, or a fourth down stop, but also the takeaways are ones that, that's less possessions for the other team. And so going in, both our offense and their offense were excellent in time of possession. And it just so happened that both guys were good with the ball, and the time of possession ended up right about the same. So in games that come right down close to it, I'd like to think that our defense will make the play that makes the difference. And so when we didn't get our chances to do that yesterday, that stinks. And so that's what we got to make sure we get done and change that math the next time that we play them.
All right, thank you. That was
All right.
the last one.
Probably.